Space was quiet in a way that felt heavy, like it was waiting for something to end. The wreckage drifted slowly, broken metal turning without purpose, pieces of a once-proud ship now scattered like bones. Small lights blinked and died one by one. The battle was already over. The galaxy had moved on. She lay trapped inside the torn hull, her body pressed against cold alloy, her breathing shallow and weak. Every breath burned. One of her arms would not move. Warm liquid floated from her side in slow red clouds, mixing with the frost in the air. Her people's blood shimmered faintly, glowing as it escaped her body. She had stopped screaming a long time ago. Her species was not built for pain. They were scholars, diplomats, artists, not warriors. When the war came, they were crushed between empires that did not care who lived or died. Their fleets burned. Their cities vanished. Their songs ended. She was one of the last. Her name no longer mattered. Titles no longer mattered. There was no one left to speak them. Through the cracked viewport she could see the planet below, a dead world. Gray clouds wrapped around it like a shroud. No lights, no life, just stone and silence. If her ship had survived a little longer, maybe she would have died on its surface instead. It would not have changed anything. Her vision blurred. The emergency systems inside her suit had long since failed. No more warnings, no more false hope, just the steady slowing of her heart. She thought of her home for the last time, tall crystal towers under blue skies. Warm winds carrying the sound of voices. Her mother's hands guiding her as she learned to read star maps. Her father laughing, saying she would never leave the academy because she loved books more than ships. She wondered if any of it had been real. The cold grew stronger. Her thoughts became slow and heavy. Fear faded, replaced by a tired calm. This was how it ended. Alone, forgotten, drifting in the dark. She closed her eyes. It was supposed to be the end. Instead, something shook her. Not violently, but firmly. The wreckage around her shifted. Metal groaned. Her body moved and pain flared sharply, dragging a weak sound from her throat. Her eyes fluttered open in confusion. Light. Not the harsh red of dying systems, but a steady white glow cutting through the darkness. Shadows moved beyond the cracked hull. For a moment she thought her mind was breaking, creating comfort before death. Then the hull was torn open. Cold space rushed in, but a force field snapped into place instantly, sealing the breach. Her body jerked as gravity changed. Strong arms wrapped around her, careful but unyielding, pulling her free from the wreckage. She tried to scream. No sound came. Her blurred vision focused just enough for her to see a face behind a helmet visor. It was not one of her kind. It was not any species she recognized from the old Alliance records. The being was taller, broader, wrapped in dark armor scarred by battle. Strange symbols marked the suit. The helmet lights reflected in her eyes as the figure looked down at her. Two eyes, forward-facing. Intense, a predator, her fear surged for a heartbeat. Then the being spoke. The language was rough, unfamiliar, but the tone was not cruel. It was urgent, focused. Easy. I've got you. You're safe. Stay with me. The words meant nothing to her mind, but somehow the meaning reached her anyway. Not through translation, through something simpler. Intent. The arms holding her tightened slightly, adjusting their grip to protect her injured side. She felt warmth through the suit. Real warmth. The kind only living beings carried. Her strength was gone. Panic tried to rise, but her body would not obey. Darkness crept in again, heavy and soft. Before it took her, she saw one last thing. The human pulled her closer to his chest as debris drifted past them, shielding her with his own body as if space itself were an enemy he could block. Then everything went dark. When awareness returned, it came in pieces. Sound first. A low hum, steady and deep. The rhythm of machinery, air moving through vents, not the silence of space. Then warmth, even, controlled. She tried to move and failed. Her body felt heavy, restrained, but not painfully so. Panic flickered, but her mind was slow, dulled by exhaustion and medicine. She opened her eyes. The ceiling above her was smooth and curved, glowing softly with white light. Strange symbols moved across panels along the walls. The air smelled clean, unfamiliar. She was alive. The realization struck her harder than fear ever had. Her breathing quickened. Her heart raced. She tried to sit up and pain shot through her side, sharp enough to force a weak cry from her throat. Immediately, something moved beside her. "Hey, don't move, you're not ready." The voice was deep but calm, the same tone as before. She turned her head slowly. The human sat beside her bed. He had removed his helmet. His face was marked with small cuts and dark bruises. One eye was swollen. His hair was dark and short, his skin lighter than hers, marked with lines of exhaustion. He looked like someone who had not slept in a very long time. He noticed her staring and raised his hand slightly, palms open. "You're okay. You're on a medical ship. We pulled you out before the reactor went critical." She did not understand the words, but a soft tone followed them, and symbols appeared in the air between them as a translation field activated. Understanding clicked into place. Human. The word echoed in her mind. Stories flooded back. Humans were dangerous, unstable. A species that evolved through constant war, a species that solved problems with violence. Her muscles tensed weakly. The human noticed. "Easy," he said again, softer this time. "No one's going to hurt you." Her voice came out as a whisper, dry and broken. "Why?" The word surprised both of them. The human blinked, clearly not expecting her to speak so soon. He leaned back slightly, giving her space. "Why what? Why save me?" The question drained what little strength she had left. Tears burned in her eyes, floating free in small, shimmering drops. The human was quiet for a moment. "Because you were alive," he said finally. "That was enough." She searched his face for deception, for hunger, for cruelty. She found none. "You risked your life," she said. "For an enemy," he frowned slightly. "You weren't shooting at me." The answer made no sense. Her voice trembled. "My people are dead. My world is gone. I have nothing." He nodded once slowly. "I know that feeling." That surprised her more than anything else. Before she could ask more, alarms sounded softly in the distance. Not urgent but alert, the human stood. "Get some rest. Doctors are still fixing you up. I'll be back." He paused, then added, "You're not alone anymore." Then he left. She stared at the empty space where he had been, her mind struggling to understand what had happened. She had closed her eyes to die. She had opened them to see a human holding her. And somehow, against everything the galaxy had taught her, she felt something she thought was gone forever. Hope. She woke slowly this time, not in panic but in confusion. The soft hum was still there, steady and calm, like a heartbeat that did not belong to her. The light above her dimmed as her eyes opened, adjusting to her awareness. Her body felt different, lighter, supported. The sharp pain in her side had faded into a dull ache, controlled and distant. She was still alive. That thought did not feel real. It felt borrowed, like something that could be taken away at any moment. She turned her head carefully. The room was larger than she first remembered. Smooth walls curved around her, filled with quiet machines and floating displays. Tubes and thin wires connected her body to medical systems that monitored every breath, every beat of her heart. A thin blanket covered her, warm and strange in texture. This was not an alien prison. This was a hospital. Her mind struggled to accept it. She tried to sit up again, more slowly this time. The bed adjusted instantly, rising to support her back. A quiet chime sounded and symbols changed color. She froze, expecting guards, restraints, something harsh. Instead, a different human entered. This one was older, hair streaked with gray. The uniform was white instead of black, marked with medical symbols. His face softened when he saw her awake. "Well, look at that," he said calmly. "You heal fast." She stared at him, her fingers tightening in the blanket. "You are human?" she asked. He smiled gently. "Last I checked." Her chest tightened. Humans were not supposed to smile like that. "You are not afraid of me," she said. He tilted his head. "Should I be?" She did not answer. He moved closer but stopped a respectful distance away. You've been unconscious for nearly a full rotation. Your injuries were serious. Internal bleeding, fractures, shock. You shouldn't be moving much yet. You fixed me, she said slowly. We stabilized you, he replied. Your body did the rest. She searched his eyes for lies. Found none. Why? She asked again. The doctor sighed softly as if he had expected the question. Because that's what we do. That answer felt too small for what had been done. Before she could respond, footsteps echoed in the corridor. The human soldier entered, the one who had pulled her from the wreckage. He looked worse than before. Fresh bandages wrapped one arm. A faint limp slowed his steps. Dark circles sat under his eyes. He stopped when he saw she was awake. You're up, he said, relief clear in his voice. She felt something twist inside her chest. You are injured, she said. He shrugged. Looks worse than it is. That is a lie, the doctor said dryly. The soldier smiled slightly. Doc worries too much. The doctor rolled his eyes and turned back to his equipment. Try not to scare our guest. The word felt strange, kind. The soldier stepped closer, then hesitated, clearly unsure. How are you feeling? She thought carefully. Alive, he nodded. Good. Silence settled between them, not awkward but heavy. Finally she spoke. You said I was safe. You are, he replied without hesitation. From you? He met her gaze steadily. Yes. She studied him again. Humans were supposed to be cruel, driven by dominance and hunger. But this one looked tired, worn, like someone who carried too much weight and kept moving anyway. What is your name? She asked. Evan, he said. Yours? She paused. For a moment she almost said nothing. Names carried history, family, a home that no longer existed. Lyra, she said quietly. Lyra, he repeated, careful with the sound. It's good to meet you. No one had said that to her since before the war. The doctor cleared his throat. I'll leave you two for a bit. Don't exhaust her. He left, the door sealing silently behind him. Lyra's eyes drifted to the window across the room. Beyond it, stars passed slowly, distant and endless. You are far from human space, she said. Why are you here? Evan leaned against the wall. Search and rescue patrol, she frowned. After a major battle. Especially after a major battle. Her hands trembled slightly. That makes no sense. There was nothing left to save. There was you. The words landed heavily. She swallowed. Humans are not known for mercy, he exhaled slowly. We're not known for a lot of things. Doesn't mean they're true. Her gaze sharpened. You fight wars, you destroy worlds. So does everyone else, he replied quietly. Difference is we don't pretend it makes us proud. She did not know how to respond to that. Time passed in small moments. The machines hummed. The ship vibrated gently as it moved through space. Lyra asked careful questions. Evan answered honestly, never rushing, never forcing. She learned the ship's name, Aegis Dawn. She learned humans had entered the galactic conflict late, not as conquerors, but as a fractured species defending distant colonies. She learned they were outnumbered, outgunned, and underestimated. She learned that Evan was not a hero. I just do my job, he said when she asked why he boarded a collapsing wreck alone. Your job is to die, she asked. No, he replied. My job is to bring people home. Her throat tightened at the word home. Later, when exhaustion pulled her back into sleep, it came without fear. When she woke again, the ship was under tension. The hum had changed, faster, sharper. Voices echoed in the corridors. Distant alarms pulsed, low but urgent. Lyra sat up, heart racing. Pain flared, but she ignored it. Evan was already there, strapping on his armor. What is happening? She asked. He paused. We picked up a hostile signal. Someone's tracking the wreckage. Her blood ran cold. They are coming for me. He did not deny it. My kind are hunted, she said. They will destroy this ship. He looked at her firmly. Not today. The ship shook slightly as weapons powered up. The lights dimmed, shifting to combat mode. You should hide, she said. They will kill you. Evan fastened his helmet, then looked back at her. They'll have to try. Before she could argue, he was gone. She was alone again, but this time not helpless. She forced herself out of bed, ignoring the protests of her body. The door opened when she approached, sensing her movement. She stepped into the corridor, holding onto the wall for balance. Humans rushed past her, focused but calm. No panic, no screaming, each one knew their role. This was not chaos. This was resolve. The ship rocked harder now. A distant explosion echoed through the hull. Lyra grabbed a railing as gravity shifted. She reached a viewport and looked out. Enemy ships emerged from hyperspace, sleek and deadly. The same markings that haunted her nightmares, the species that had shattered her people. Tears burned in her eyes. The intercom crackled. "All hands defensive positions," a voice announced. "We protect what's ours." What's ours? Did that include her? The answer came moments later. A blast struck the ship's shields. The impact sent her to her knees. Before she could fall, arms caught her. "Evan." "You shouldn't be here," he said urgently. "They will not stop," she whispered. "Give me to them, save your crew." He stared at her like she had said something unthinkable. "No, you will all die," she said. "Maybe," he replied, "but not because we abandoned someone." The ship fired back. Brilliant light filled space. The humans fought with desperate creativity, using debris, feints, and unpredictable maneuvers. Not strength. Will. Lyra watched, stunned. Humans were not the strongest species, but they were impossible to break. As the battle raged, something inside her shifted. She was no longer just surviving. She was witnessing something the galaxy had never understood. Humans did not save her because she was important. They saved her because she was alive. And they were willing to fight the stars themselves to prove that mattered. The battle did not end quickly. It stretched on, heavy and loud, shaking the ship again and again. The Aegis Dawn moved like a wounded animal, dodging, turning, firing in sharp bursts. Every impact sent a deep vibration through the floor, into Lyra's bones. Evan pulled her into a narrow alcove near the corridor wall and braced one arm around her as another explosion rocked the ship. "Stay here," he said. "Whatever happens, don't move." She looked up at him, her eyes wide. "You cannot win." He shook his head once. "We don't need to win, we just need to hold." Before she could ask what that meant, he turned and ran back toward the chaos. Lyra slid down the wall slowly until she was sitting on the floor. Her breathing was fast and shallow. Fear wrapped around her again, sharp and familiar. This was her fault. If she had died in the wreckage, none of this would be happening. These humans would still be alive, still moving, still unaware of the hunters closing in. The lights flickered. A distant scream echoed, then cut off. She pressed her hands against her ears. "No," she whispered. "This is wrong." Her people believed in fate, in balance, in quiet acceptance when the end came. Humans did not seem to believe in any of that. They fought anyway. The ship jolted violently. Lyra cried out as pain flared through her side. Something nearby crashed to the floor, sparks flying. A voice came over the intercom, strained but controlled. "Shields at 30%, we're losing ground." Another voice responded immediately. "Reroute power from engines, give weapons everything. But we won't be able to jump." "Then we don't jump." Lyra stared at the wall, her chest tightening. They were choosing her. Footsteps rushed toward her. A human woman in combat gear skidded to a stop, eyes widening when she saw Lyra on the floor. "What are you doing out here?" the woman demanded. "I wanted to help," Lyra said weakly. The woman hesitated, then crouched beside her. "Can you walk?" "I think so." "Good. Come with me." They moved together down the corridor, slow and unsteady. The woman supported most of Lyra's weight, guiding her toward a sealed door. Inside was a small command room filled with holographic displays. Stars and enemy ships glowed in sharp red. Humans worked quickly, voices low, movements precise. Evan stood at the center, issuing orders. When he saw Lyra, his expression hardened. "I told you to stay put." "I needed to see," she said. "I needed to understand." He looked away briefly, then nodded to the woman. "Get her seated." Lyra was lowered into a chair. The room vibrated as another blast hit the shields. Her eyes moved across the displays. She recognized enemy formations, their tactics, their weapons. "They will flank you from the dark side of the planet," she said suddenly. "They always do." The room went quiet. Evan turned slowly. "You're sure?" "Yes," she said. "They think it makes them clever." One of the officers adjusted the display. "She's right. We've got movement." Evan did not hesitate. "Counterthrust. Use the debris field to mask our heat." "But that's risky," someone said. "So is doing nothing." The ship lurched as it changed course sharply. Enemy fire missed by a narrow margin. Lyra felt something strange then. She was not just a burden. She was part of this. The battle continued, but the humans adapted quickly. They did not fight like the other species she had seen. They did not rely on rigid formations or overwhelming force. They improvised, changed patterns mid-fight, used broken wreckage as cover and weapons. They fought like survivors. An alarm screamed suddenly, louder than before. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Evan swore under his breath. "Seal it, get damage control down there." The lights dimmed further. Power was failing. Lyra's hands clenched on the armrests. "You cannot keep this up." Evan met her gaze. "We don't need to." "What do you mean?" He pointed at a blinking marker on the edge of the display. "Reinforcements, human fleet. They were farther out than we thought." Hope sparked painfully in her chest. "They will come?" she asked. "They always do," he said. The enemy seemed to sense it too. Their attacks became more desperate, more reckless. One ship broke formation, charging directly toward the Aegis Dawn. "They're going to ram us," someone shouted. Evan moved instantly. "All power to forward shields. Brace." The impact was brutal. Lyra screamed as the world slammed sideways. The chair restraints snapped tight. Metal shrieked. Lights went out completely. For a terrifying moment there was nothing but darkness and silence. Then emergency lights flickered on. Smoke filled the air. Systems sparked. Humans groaned and pulled themselves up, bleeding but alive. Evan staggered to his feet. His helmet was cracked, blood running down his forehead. "Status," he shouted. "Shields gone. Weapons offline. Life support stable but barely." The enemy ship drifted past them, broken but not destroyed. Lyra pushed herself up, ignoring the pain. Her legs shook, but she stood. "They will board you," she said softly. "That is their way." Evan's jaw tightened. "Then we make it hurt." The first breach came minutes later. Enemy soldiers forced their way through the damaged hull, armored and armed, moving with cold efficiency. Lyra recognized their posture, their discipline. Fear froze her. Evan stepped in front of her without thinking. "Get her out of here," he ordered. "There's nowhere left to go," someone yelled. The first enemy fired. Evan fired back. The corridor exploded into chaos. Humans fought hard, using every inch of space, every piece of cover. They fell back slowly, never turning their backs, never breaking. Lyra pressed herself against the wall, heart pounding. She saw a human fall, another take their place without hesitation. She saw Evan take a hit to the shoulder and keep fighting as if it did not matter. The enemy pushed forward. "Evan," she cried, "stop." He glanced at her briefly. "Stay back." "No," she said, stepping forward. "Listen to me." An enemy soldier turned toward her, weapon raised. Before Evan could react, Lyra raised her hands and spoke in the enemy's language. "Enough," the word echoed through the corridor. The enemy hesitated, shocked. "I am Lyra of the Fallen," she said, her voice steady despite the fear. "Your war is over. Leave these humans." The enemy leader laughed, harsh and cruel. "You are property. You belong to us." Lyra's fear burned away, replaced by something stronger. "I belong to myself," she said, "and they chose to protect me. What does that make you?" The enemy sneered and raised his weapon again. He never fired. A human tackled him from the side, slamming him into the wall. The fight resumed, fiercer than before. Lyra watched, stunned. They did not hesitate. They did not consider surrender. They fought because they had chosen to stand with her. Suddenly, a new sound filled the ship, a deep, thunderous roar, human engines. The displays lit up as fresh ships dropped out of hyperspace, weapons already firing. The enemy formation broke instantly, panic spreading through their ranks. Cheers erupted through the corridor. "They're here," someone shouted. The boarding enemies tried to retreat, but it was too late. Human forces pushed back hard, reclaiming the ship piece by piece. When it was over, Lyra sank to her knees, exhausted beyond words. Evan knelt beside her, breathing hard. He removed his helmet, his face streaked with blood and soot. "You okay?" he asked. She looked at him, tears streaming freely now. "You could have died," she said. "All of you," he nodded. "Yeah." "Why?" she whispered. "Why do this?" He thought for a long moment, then spoke quietly. "Because someone once saved us when no one else would. Because if we stop doing that, we stop being human." She reached out and touched his arm, gentle and unsure. For the first time since her world had burned, she believed something new. Humans were not just survivors. They were protectors. And once they chose you, they never let go. The ship was quiet in a way that felt unreal. Not the calm silence from before, but the heavy stillness after something terrible had passed. Smoke lingered in the air, thin and bitter. Emergency lights glowed softly along the corridors, painting everything in pale blue and white. The hum of damaged systems replaced the sound of battle. Lyra sat on the floor where the fight had ended, her back against the wall. Her body trembled now that the danger was gone. Every breath felt deep and shaky, like she had forgotten how to breathe properly. Humans moved around her, stepping carefully, checking the wounded, sealing broken panels. No one celebrated. No one shouted. They worked quietly with tired focus. Evan stood nearby, speaking with another soldier. His shoulder was wrapped in fresh bandages. His face was pale beneath the dried blood, but his eyes were alert, scanning every movement. When he finally turned back to her, he crouched down slowly. "You did good back there," he said. She shook her head. "I did nothing." "That's not true," he replied. "You stood up when you were scared. Most people don't." She looked at her hands. They were still shaking. "I was ready to die once," she said softly. "Now I do not know what I am ready for." Evan did not rush her. He stayed quiet, giving her space to find the words. "My people believed survival was about balance," she continued. "If the end came, we accepted it. We did not fight the tide." He nodded. "Humans aren't very good at that." She almost smiled. A medic approached and checked her vitals again, adjusting a small device on her wrist. "You're stable," the medic said, "but you pushed yourself too hard. You need rest." Lyra nodded, suddenly exhausted again. As she was helped back to the medical bay, she noticed something she had not seen before. Damage, not just to the ship but to the people. Burn marks on armor, limping steps, faces tight with pain and loss. Some bunks were empty now. Guilt settled deep in her chest. Later, when the lights dimmed and the ship entered slow travel, Evan returned. He sat in a chair beside her bed, his posture stiff, like he was trying not to show how much he hurt. "You should sleep," he said. "I am afraid to," she replied. "Why?" She hesitated. "If I sleep, I may wake up alone again." His jaw tightened slightly. "You won't," he said firmly. "How can you be sure?" "Because we don't leave people behind," he answered. "Not anymore." She studied his face, trying to understand the weight behind those words. "Not anymore," she repeated. He exhaled slowly. "We learned the hard way." She did not push further. Instead, she asked, "What will happen to me?" Evan leaned back, eyes lifting to the ceiling. "That depends." "On what?" "On what you want," he said. The idea startled her. "What I want no longer matters," she said. "My kind is scattered, hunted. I am a burden." He looked at her sharply. "You're not a burden." "You risked your lives for me," she said. "Others died." His voice softened. "People die in war whether you're here or not. That's not on you." "But they asked for me," she insisted. "They will keep asking." "Yes," he said, "and will keep saying no." She felt something twist inside her again, tight and painful and warm. Days passed slowly. The Aegis Dawn limped toward human-controlled space, escorted by other ships. Repairs were constant. Lyra stayed mostly in the medical bay, watched closely by doctors and quietly visited by crew members. Some were curious, some cautious. None were cruel. She learned their names, their stories. A few spoke of families waiting far away. Others had no one left. Humans carried loss like a quiet shadow. One cycle, Evan brought her a small device. "It's a personal translator," he said, "custom-tuned to you." She accepted it carefully. "Thank you," he hesitated. "There's something else." Her heart quickened. "What is it?" "We intercepted communications," he said. "The enemy has made a demand." Her hands tightened. "They want me." "Yes. And if you refuse, they've threatened escalation, attacks on border colonies, civilians." The word hit her like a physical blow. She sat up despite the pain. "You cannot let that happen," Evan stood. "We won't hand you over." "That is not what I said," she replied. He turned sharply. "Lyra, I will go," she said. Silence filled the room. "No," he said immediately. "If my surrender prevents more death, it won't," he interrupted. "They don't keep promises. You do not know that." "I do," he said, voice tight. "We've seen this before." She met his gaze, unflinching. "Then you will fight a larger war because of me." "Yes," he said, "if that's what it takes." Her chest ached. "Why are humans like this?" He laughed softly without humor. "Stubborn, self-destructive," she corrected. "Maybe," he agreed, "but also loyal." She closed her eyes. "My people were loyal too. It did not save us." "No," Evan said quietly, "but it mattered." She opened her eyes slowly. "I do not want more blood spilled in my name," she said. "And I don't want to send you to die alone," he replied. The door chimed softly. A senior officer entered, her expression serious. "The council wants to speak with her," she said. Lyra nodded. "I will come." The chamber was filled with screens, faces from different human fleets appearing in shifting light. Some looked tired, others angry, all focused on her. "You are the reason they are hunting us," one voice said bluntly. "Yes," Lyra replied calmly. "And you are willing to surrender." "I am willing to protect those who protected me," she said. Murmurs spread. Evan stood behind her, silent but present. Another voice spoke, older and steady. "You would trust us to keep fighting without you." She turned slightly. "I trust humans to do what they believe is right." That answer changed something. The council deliberated. Voices rose and fell. Arguments clashed. Finally, the older voice returned. "We will not force you," it said, "but understand this. If you go, we may not be able to save you." "I understand," Lyra said. Evan stepped forward. "This is a mistake." Lyra turned to him. "You gave me back my life," she said softly. "Now let me choose how to use it." His eyes burned, but he nodded once. Preparations were made quickly. A neutral location was chosen. A single escort ship. No weapons displayed. As Lyra stood at the airlock, dressed in simple garments, she felt fear again, pure and sharp. Evan stood across from her. "I wish there was another way," he said. "So do I," she replied. He reached out, hesitated, then placed a small emblem in her hand. "What is this?" she asked. "A human symbol," he said. "It means you are under our protection." She closed her fingers around it. "If I do not return, don't," he said quietly. She met his gaze one last time. "You changed the galaxy for me." He shook his head. "You changed us." The airlock opened. As she stepped forward into uncertainty, Lyra did not feel weak. She felt chosen, and somewhere deep within her, she knew this was not the end. Because humans did not forget, and they did not forgive those who took what they had sworn to protect. The stars stretched endlessly ahead as Lyra stood on the deck of the small escort ship. The hum of the engines was steady, calm, and strange after the chaos she had survived. Outside, the black of space was punctuated by distant points of light, worlds she would never see, ships she would never know, and battles she could only hope to forget. She clutched the small emblem Evan had given her, feeling its weight. It was not heavy, but it carried meaning she had never understood before. Humans did not need a symbol to protect someone. They simply chose to act. And once they chose, they never let go. The escort ship moved through the void toward human-controlled space. Every moment felt fragile, as if a single mistake could undo everything. Yet Lyra did not feel the fear that had gripped her before. She had survived impossible odds, seen humans fight and bleed without hesitation, and understood something she had never believed. Humans were extraordinary, not because of strength or weapons, but because of will. Evan stood at the console beside her. He did not speak at first, letting her gaze drift out the viewport. Then he said, "You know, some people will not believe what happened." "I do not care if they believe it," she said quietly. "I know what I saw." He chuckled softly, a rare, tired sound. "Most of the galaxy thinks humans are weak, unimportant. They laugh at us. They say we are easily broken, and yet here we are." She turned to him, curiosity flickering. "Why did you save me? Why did you fight so hard when you could have left me?" He hesitated. For a moment the quiet of space filled the room, heavy and deep. "Because no one deserves to die alone," he said finally. "Because someone once did the same for us, and because you were alive. That alone was reason enough." Lyra felt tears rise, though she fought them back. Her species had no word for gratitude that ran so deep it burned the chest. Humans had a word: honor. She understood it now. Hours passed in silence. The ship approached the edge of human space, where borders were marked by small stations and patrols. The escort captain appeared on the deck to meet them, a tall figure in crisp uniform. He looked at Lyra carefully, then at Evan. "She survived," he said simply. "Yes," Evan replied, "because we chose to save her." The captain nodded slowly, as if weighing the weight of those words. "The galaxy will remember this," he said. "Will they?" Lyra asked. "They will," he said. "Not immediately, perhaps. Not everyone will understand. But humans do not forget, and they do not abandon those they protect. That is enough to change minds." Lyra thought of the countless species who had mocked humans, called them weak and insignificant. She thought of the alien fleets that had fallen so easily to human tactics, ingenuity, and sheer stubbornness. She thought of the crew who had risked their lives for her, for someone they barely knew, and realized it was true. Humans were not just a species in the galaxy. They were a force, a principle, a beacon of something rare and terrifying. The escort ship docked at a human station. Lyra's legs were unsteady as she disembarked, but she held herself tall. Officers and civilians paused to stare, curious about the alien who had survived a battle humans were supposed to lose. She met their eyes without fear. She was no longer just a survivor. She was proof. In the center of the station, a communication hub connected every major fleet. Screens flickered with images from across human-controlled space. Lyra stepped forward with Evan at her side. Together, they spoke to those waiting to hear her story. She told them of the enemy, of the relentless pursuit, of the battles that should have ended her life. She told them of the humans who fought not for glory or conquest, but because they chose to stand, because they chose to protect. And as she spoke, the galaxy listened. Messages poured in from worlds that had dismissed humans as unremarkable. Ships began to report changes in behavior from those who had once been enemies. Some were cautious, some fearful. A few sent envoys, hoping to understand this stubborn, impossible species. Humans did not seek tribute, did not demand obedience. They acted because they could. That alone reshaped alliances, shifted strategies, and altered the perception of an entire species. Lyra felt something unfamiliar but deeply satisfying: hope. Not just for herself, but for all those who had suffered. She had been given a chance not because she was powerful or royal or essential to some grand plan. She had been given a chance because humans valued life itself, and when they chose to fight for someone, nothing could stand in their way. Evan remained at her side, quiet but steady. She looked at him, seeing more than the soldier who had pulled her from the wreckage. She saw the embodiment of everything she had learned about humans: courage, loyalty, and an unshakable will. "Thank you," she said simply. He shook his head. Don't thank me, remember it, learn it, and if you tell your story, tell it truthfully. Humans don't fight for glory. We fight because someone has to, because we choose to, she nodded. I will. Days later, as she trained and learned to adapt to human life, Lyra found herself no longer fearful of being alone. She was surrounded by humans who had risked everything to protect her, and she understood now that survival was not just about the body. It was about will, loyalty, and the choices people made when the galaxy seemed to demand despair. The alien girl who had once closed her eyes to die now walked among humans with open eyes. She understood a truth the galaxy would soon have to accept. Humans were not just participants in history. They were shapers of it. Not because they could crush others beneath them, but because they refused to abandon those who could not protect themselves. In time, she began to train alongside them, learning their ways, their language, their tactics. She watched them improvise, adapt, and protect with relentless determination. Every exercise, every drill, every small act of bravery impressed her more than any story she had been told about the galaxy's mighty empires. Weeks passed. Lyra became a symbol. Not of conquest, not of power, but of choice. The galaxy began to see humans differently. Ships hailed her and the crew of the Aegis Dawn. Other species began to approach with curiosity instead of scorn. Stories spread of the alien girl saved by humans, of the impossible odds they had overcome, and of the refusal to abandon life even when death seemed certain. She stood on the observation deck one evening, Evan beside her. The stars stretched infinitely, each point of light a reminder of the battles fought, the lives saved, and the endless possibilities ahead. You changed everything, she said softly. He looked at her with a small smile. No, humans did, and now so will you. She turned her eyes to the horizon. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But for the first time, she believed that choices could matter. That courage could ripple farther than any fleet. That one life could inspire hope across worlds. And in that understanding, Lyra found peace. Not just the peace of surviving, but the peace of knowing she belonged to a species that would fight the stars themselves to protect life. She had been given a chance, and she would not waste it. The alien girl who had closed her eyes to die now walked among humans who refused to let the galaxy break them. And in doing so, she had become more than a survivor. She had become a witness to humanity itself. The galaxy would remember. Not because of fear, not because of strength, but because humans chose to stand for what mattered. And once they chose, nothing could undo it. She smiled, finally free of the past that had haunted her. The stars outside were infinite, but so were the possibilities ahead. And she would face them not alone, but with humans by her side. Hope was no longer fragile. It was unstoppable.